My name's Tom Dennis. I've been teaching Samayach in the Kw'alaams for the last year and a half. Started in 2005, January, up until now, which is June 21st. And I'll be continuing on as long as they want me here. So. It's important because if we lose our language, we lose our identity, our uniqueness, and we don't want that to happen. And as far as I know, I'm the youngest fluent speakers in the Kw'alaams. Oh, that's why they dragged me out of my house to teach Maya. So, my parents and my uncles, we lived out in Work Channel, fish camp all summer, and that's all they spoke was the Samayach language. So naturally, I picked it up from there. So, and I spoke it during all summer. Came back to school in the fall, and it was a difficult thing to switch back to English again. Teacher asked me a question, I almost answered in Samaya. So, but it was a good thing, I guess. My older sister, she was in residential school, and I'm currently teaching her how to say the words. And it's been a year and a half, and now she's finally got the words down pat. So it's taken her a little while because she's been weaned off of the language, so through the residential school. I teach from kindergarten to, well, this year was senior transition, which is 7, 8, I believe. And apparently next year we're going to go into regular 8, that's as far as I'll go. Because I don't write the language, and as far as I'm concerned, it was never a written language. So, and a lot of the translations are different. It comes out different than what it's supposed to be. So that's why our elders never wanted it to be written. Right. As lose a lot in translation, especially into the English language. So the thing I see is with the Samayach language. What they're doing now is they're trying to write the Samayach language to the English language, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be the English language to the Samayach, because you can't translate it the other way around. I noticed a lot of that in the dictionary, but I don't have any say in that. So I would like our elders to get involved in, especially in the teaching of our children, because if our elders aren't involved, it makes it a lot more difficult. Like now, I've been trying to get a meeting going with them, but they just don't. There's just a couple that are interested, but I guess I'm going to have to utilize them, at least get it started. A lot of stories that I see that are not written down. There are some I heard that are written down, but there's quite a few that I don't know if it's just within my family, but there's a lot of stories that I heard when I was a kid, because that was our TV when we were kids, is my dad telling the stories that happened years and years ago, and sometimes I would last halfway through a story and then be sleeping. It's just like regular TV, I guess. It puts you to sleep after a while, but I've been passing that on to the kids the last year and a half, so, and there are a lot of strange things that people seen around here and that I heard the old people talking about. And I guess they didn't think I understood the language, but I didn't speak it. I understood it when I was quite young. And I didn't speak it until I was probably just starting to a teenager, and then I started trying to speak the language. But I understood it when I was quite young, and I don't think the elders knew that I knew the language, understood it. And sometimes they would talk about me when I'm standing right there, and I never said anything. I just continued doing what I was doing, pretending not to understand what they're talking about. But then they would tell stories about things that happened, not only here in the village, but when they're out trapping and stuff like that, and seeing strange animals. And
like what kind of things?
Like my dad, when he was trolling one year, he had a commercial boat, troller. And he said he had a funny feeling in the back of his neck when he was trolling. So he happened to look around, and there was this strange animal following the boat. And when he looked at it, he said it had a beak of eagle. And you know that red thing they had on the rooster has on top of its head? It had that on top of its head. And it was about, 25 yards behind the boat. And he said the eyes were size of saucers. And he got quite afraid of it because he didn't know what it was. He had a rifle on the boat, so he loaded that up and shot it. And it just happened that it was a little shallows right close by. This thing went back, and it came back up again, and it started going after the boat. So he pushed ran the engine as fast as it'll go and went into the shallows, and this big thing went down. So right to his dying day, he would tell us the story, and he would draw a picture on the sand, what it looked like. I don't know. There are a lot of strange things out there that we don't know.
How big was it?
He would say, I don't know,
Bigger than an eagle.
about 3 or 4 feet around the neck part, but it was only up to the neck part that was out of the water. Yeah. So there was some other stories. There was one upward channel where this guy was hand trolling in a canoe, and he was rowing along the shore, and you could hear this water sound like splashing water. So he looked out just on the outside of him, and he swore up and down there was a bull standing on the water, an actual bull. Yeah, it was about maybe 15, 20 yards offshore. And of course he froze and didn't move, and he said it was lucky enough that the little breeze was pushing him into the beach, and his canoe bounced up against the shore, and he stayed there. In them days, they always carried a gun with them, so he started getting afraid, so he gradually reached for his rifle, and this thing went down. And
He killed it.
no, he never.
It went down?
It went down. Yeah, I guess it had a feeling that he was going to grab his rifle. So.
Oh, you mean it like?
Yeah, he had his rifle sitting alongside him.
Oh, you
So.
mean it went down from standing on
Yeah,
the water?
it went under the water again. Yeah, where it came from. So he swore up and down there was a bull, a real bull. He said, "You see it in the books?" He said, "That's what I seen." Yeah, he swore up and down that's what it was. So those are the kinds of stories that the kids seem pretty interested in, and I keep telling them, there's animals out there that we don't know exist yet. So, and probably those two of them are the ones that we don't know what they are. Look like a bull up on top, but on the bottom, what is it? We don't know. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, those are the things that I passed on, what I heard myself from the elders, and I passed on something that I seen myself. I was living up in Work Channel. Weekends, I would go hand trolling when I was young, and one weekend I went up there. Just when I got there was a pod of killer whales went in Work Channel. There was about 12, I guess, killer whales. They go right up to the head of Work Channel. The next day, about 10 o'clock, when I got there, my uncle said, "You might as well sleep in tomorrow." So 10 o'clock, we were sitting there having coffee with my uncle, and it was a really beautiful day. You could see quite a ways up Work Channel. My uncle said, "What's that coming way up there?" I looked, and it looked like a little porpoise jumping, coming right in the middle of the Work Channel. And not even 5 minutes, it's about 5 miles distance, I guess, where we could see it coming. Not even 2 minutes. There was one killer whale going down the middle of the channel all by himself, and he was jumping like a porpoise. And that's the only killer whale that came out of the Work Channel, out of the whole dozen. So my uncle said, part of killer whales ran into something up in the Work Channel and killed them off. It's the only one that got away. So after that, we noticed that the killer whales only went to as far as Paradise Pass, and they went back out again. For about 10 years, they wouldn't go away in the Work Channel anymore. And to this day, I see them, they only go so far in, they come back out again. So I don't know what kind of animals living up in the Work Channel. They made a mistake and ran into it.
You think?
Yeah, so that's quite a feet to wipe out 11 killer whales in one night.
And you think, because there's no explanation where they went.
No, we don't know what they ran into up there, but I know I heard a story of in Killawell got same thing, but one of them got away, but it was a giant octopus. And it killed off about 8 of the Killawells. The 9th one got away, and about a week later, there was probably 1,000 Killawells there, and they managed to kill that giant octopus. And my grandfather was a very young man at the time, probably a teenager, but they didn't keep track of how old they were then, but he said he was very young. And the older guys, on one of the big suckers from the octopus, I think they said there was 6 or 8 guys could stand in that one sucker, all in a circle. That's how big that one sucker was. That's right close to the the body part of the octopus. So it was a big one. And the elders were watching. They moved up into the hills, but they could see the fight. They were afraid that the water was going to rise when the killer whales and the octopus started fighting. And that's what I've been passing on to the kids, stories like that, the ones that I heard. And I can't say that the elders are lying because, I wasn't there and I'm not old enough. I wasn't old enough to be there. I wasn't even thought of then. That's the type of things that I've been passing on. And the language the way I was taught to speak it, and that's what I'm passing on. What I was taught for how we speak things, say things in this village.
Did the Kw'alaams have a tradition of potlatch at all?
Yes, they had that, name giving. I think the tribal system, the tribes would bury the person. They had special places for house chiefs and chiefs. They weren't buried with the common people. They had their own special burial area. But I guess the last 50 or 60 years, that used to be up in Simitian Valley. Somewhere around there was a bluff there where there was a big cave where all the chiefs and house chiefs were buried. But I guess scientists, they found that, and they were starting because they were buried with all their worldly possessions, all their bows and arrows, all their dancing regalia and everything, and they were starting to take those out of there. So RCMP went and blasted that, covered it up, so that they wouldn't take any more of the stuff, because they were cleaning it out, and there was rattles, you name it was in there. Because my uncle, he was quite a young man when he went there, and they were all buried in bentwood boxes, all in a circle. And he seen a couple of the rattles there. He said they're real nice rattles, and it was from his tribe. I think it was not Killawell, Eagle. So he took the rattles and he stood in the middle of the circle of all these chiefs. Stood in the middle there, and he talked to them, and then he started dancing around in there. Just for being I guess what you call a smart ass then in them days. He danced around. Then he put the rattles back, him and his brother. They started walking down. It was just maybe a 3-minute walk from the water to where that cave was. And they said when they walked out of the cave, they said they could feel like people pulling on your clothes. Mind you, he said they ran all the way down to the boat and they got out of there. But I told him, well, they must have liked your dancing, they didn't want you to leave. And this happened not very long ago. He just passed away a couple of years ago. And he was pretty old and he was knowledgeable. And one of the things that I regretted was not paying more attention to what he was saying. I was young at that time and I didn't want to hear it. And I understand that kids on this end of the school, grade 8 and up, they really don't want to hear the language.
Yeah.
And I tried it last year. they're going to try it again next year, I guess. But they're at an age where they have other things to think about. And I found that out this year. We had, I think, 20 minutes with them, and it was no use talking to them because they didn't hear it anyways. And I told the principal, well, we might as well take that few minutes and put it over to the kindergarten, and it worked out really well for the kindergarten. And there are some kids that are coming up that I think they will be fluent in the language, and that'll be something worth to see, I think. I'm hoping anyways. There are some young kids that are really good at Samaya right now. They pick up something and they can read it, and which is
That's great.
makes me happy to see that. I read a story with Elder when she was young. She just passed away a couple of years ago, where they used to use sealskin boots, and they were out camping, and her aunt got tired of fixing their clothes like the clothes we have now, because they'd eventually wear out. So she made them sealskin pants and sealskin coat, because they last a lot longer. And she said she didn't know what her aunt did, but there was no smell to the sealskin clothes, boots or pants. There was no smell to it. If you shoot a seal, there's a certain smell to it, and there was none. She didn't know what her aunt did, but it's a shame that she didn't find out and pass it on. But she was also a very knowledgeable young lady. When I took my Samayach name, or my Tsimshian name, I'm sorry, I went to her, and she was a great help. And I and my other friend there, we took our names at the same time, but our house crests were different. His is an eagle and mine was a raven, and we're both house chiefs. And she told us at that time that you're both getting your names at the same time, you're both putting up the feast. She said, for that, you are both brothers until one of you passes away, and then the obligation is gone. So the guy I had a feast with, he's quite old now, and I guess within the next few years he'll be passing on. I hope not, but at that time we set where our names are going to go, and we do go. And that's the one unfortunate thing about the Tsimshian tradition. Someone has to die before you get a name. We don't use the sweat lodges to get a name. You know, we use it, but not for that purpose. Our names are passed on from generation to generation. Our system is that you always follow your mother's side. So if your mother's brother is a chief, his oldest nephew takes his place when he passes on. So my uncle was a house chief when he passed on, and I had some cousins which were older than I am, but they got adopted to another tribe. So that's why I ended up to be a house chief. I was the next oldest nephew. So my next oldest nephew is Howard Green Jr. So, and that's what we call a Kw'alaams. He's a chief in waiting. And that's what Kw'alaams means. Some of the chiefs have, their families have disappeared. That way they have to adopt somebody from another tribe to take that chief's name and continue, start a new lineage. And sometimes it works, but sometimes it don't. And most of the time, last probably 50 to 75 years, it hasn't worked. Because what they didn't do was take some of their family with them. And that's what they were supposed to do, take a sister. When they adopt a person to take the chief's name, they didn't adopt the sister also, because then the sister's kids will follow, and that's where the lineage can start. And they neglected to do that. So they just adopted a chief, and when he died, they have to adopt another one. And for some reason or other, they weren't thinking of that. I'm not saying that what they were doing is wrong, but you have to keep doing it if you're going to do it that way. And when you adopt someone, especially into a different tribe, usually you adopt the daughter, the oldest daughter, then you adopt the son or a sister, because in them times, when they adopted somebody from one house to another, they actually took them out of the house and took them into this other house. So they had to have somebody to play with because they didn't know who was owning that house. So that's why they adopted too. Nowadays, you adopt someone, they stay with their parents and they don't move with the people that adopt them in the tribal system.
What's the purpose of the adoption? A lineage?
To expand, when your house is getting small, like there's hardly any people in your tribal house, then you adopt people to expand, make your house bigger. So you don't want it to go extinct. So that's why you always adopted the girl, because when you adopt a girl, when she has children, the children are in that tribe, and that expands the tribe. So that was the reasoning behind that. A lot of the people are asking me, what does this name mean in Samaya? I told them, well, if I translate it into Samaya or into English, it'll be different from when it first started, it first originated, because our language has evolved in the last, since contact, I guess 150 years, our language has evolved since then. And if I translate it now, it'll mean something completely different from when it first started out. So I told them they have to research it back, and that way they'll find out what the real meaning of the name is. Because I think if I went back 100 years and talked to some of the elders, they wouldn't understand what I'm saying. But I'll be speaking Samaya. So it's that much different.